The station called Velaris Point floated between three star systems, built as a place where species that did not trust each other were forced to sit at the same table. Its halls were wide, its lights soft, and its walls made of a silver metal that reflected faces back at those who passed. Many believed the station itself watched them, judging every step. Lieutenant Evan Cole walked through one of those halls in silence. He was human, which meant most beings noticed him only after a second look. He was not tall by galactic standards. He had no claws, no glowing skin, no armored plates. Just a uniform, steady steps and eyes that stayed open and alert. He had been assigned a simple task, at least on paper. Observe. Stand near the alien envoy from the Aurelian Conquered, ensure protocol was followed, and do not interfere unless ordered. Humans were still new to the coalition, and many species wanted them seen but not heard. Evan accepted the order without complaint. Humans had learned long ago that survival often meant patience. The doors to the diplomatic chamber slid open without a sound. Inside, representatives from 12 species sat or stood in positions that suited their biology. Some hovered. Some rested on many legs. Some remained behind light shields that adjusted the air around them. And then there was her. She stood near the center, tall and graceful, her form wrapped in layered fabric that shifted colors with her mood. Her skin was pale blue, smooth like polished stone, and her eyes, large and dark, reflected light in a way that made them seem deeper than they were. She was Ambassador Sela of Arelium. Evan had seen images of her before. Everyone had. The Aurelian species valued perception above all things. They believed that to truly see someone was to hold power over them. Eye contact among her people was rare and intimate. That was why the moment she noticed Evan, everything changed. He was standing where he had been told to stand. Behind her, slightly to the right, close enough to intervene, far enough to avoid offense, and he was looking at her, not rudely, not aggressively, just watching. Sela felt it at once. She did not turn. Aurelian instincts warned her not to. To meet an uninvited gaze was to surrender ground. Yet the feeling did not fade. It remained steady, calm, almost warm. She shifted slightly, her shoulders tightening. Most species avoided looking at her directly, some out of respect, others out of fear. Humans, she had been told, struggled with restraint. They stared too much, spoke too freely, felt too deeply. But this human did not stare like the others. His gaze did not crawl over her. It did not search for weakness. It did not demand attention. It waited. The session began. Words were exchanged through translators, trade routes, defense agreements. Old wounds reopened with polite language. Evan listened, though he had no role in the discussion. He watched body language, tone shifts, and micropauses between translated phrases. Humans were good at that. It was how they had survived among predators long before they reached the stars. Sela spoke with confidence, her voice smooth and controlled. Yet every time she paused, she felt that human presence behind her, the weight of being seen. Finally she turned. Their eyes met. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. For a fraction of a second, Sela expected the human to look away. Most did. Even seasoned diplomats broke eye contact with her kind. Evan did not. His face showed no challenge, no hunger, no fear. Only attention. Something unfamiliar stirred in Sela's chest. Not alarm, not anger, curiosity. She held the gaze longer than protocol allowed. A quiet test. Evan remained still. After 2 heartbeats, she turned back to the council as if nothing had happened. But the moment stayed with her, echoing like a soft note played once and never forgotten. The meeting ended without incident. Representatives departed in groups, surrounded by aides and guards. Sela walked alone. That, too, was unusual. Evan followed at a respectful distance, as instructed. The corridor lights dimmed slightly as they entered a private wing reserved for high-ranking envoys. She stopped. Evan stopped as well. Slowly, she turned to face him fully this time. Up close, he looked even more ordinary. Brown eyes, short dark hair, a faint scar near his jaw, old and clean, no visible weapons. "You are human," she said. "Yes, ambassador. You were assigned to observe. Yes, and yet you watched me." Evan considered his response carefully. "I did not intend offense." "Intent is not the same as effect," she replied. Her eyes searched his face, perhaps expecting unease. She did not find it. "Then I apologize for the effect," he said simply. The answer surprised her. Most beings defended themselves, explained, justified. He did neither. She stepped closer. Aurelian height made most species instinctively step back. Evan did not. "You did not look away," she said softly. "No," he replied. "Why?" The question was more personal than diplomatic. Evan knew that. He chose honesty, because you mattered. Silence followed. Sela had been many things in her long life, respected, feared, negotiated over, desired even, but rarely had anyone said she mattered without wanting something in return. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in focus. "Humans are strange," she said. "We hear that a lot." A pause. Then unexpectedly her lips curved into a small smile. "You keep staring like that," she whispered, her voice low enough that only he could hear, "and I might start to like it." Evan felt his heartbeat quicken, but his expression remained calm. Humans felt deeply, but training had taught him control. "I will follow protocol," he said. She laughed quietly. Aurelian laughter was rare, brief, and genuine. "Good," she said. "Because so will I." She turned and continued down the corridor. Evan followed. Over the next few days, Velaris Point grew tense. Data leaks surfaced. Communication delays appeared between systems. Someone was interfering with coalition networks. Blame shifted quickly, as it always did. Eyes turned to humans. They were new, adaptable, too good with machines. Evan noticed the change before most. The way guards stiffened when he passed. The way conversations paused. Sela noticed too. She summoned him to her observation chamber under the excuse of reviewing security footage. The chamber was quiet, lit by soft blue light that matched her skin. Screens hovered in the air, displaying streams of data. "You are being watched," she said without turning. "So are you," Evan replied. She faced him. "This station is not safe." "No," he agreed. "Your people are suspected." "Yes." "Are they guilty?" Evan met her eyes again. "No." There was no hesitation in his voice. Sela studied him carefully. Among her people, certainty without arrogance was rare. "Then someone wants us divided," she said. "Yes." She walked closer, lowering her voice. "If conflict breaks out, humans will be blamed. The coalition needs an example." Evan nodded. "We know." "And yet," she said, "you remain calm." He thought of Earth, of a species that had survived disasters of its own making, of wars, plagues, and near extinction. "Panic has never saved us," he said. Sela felt something settle inside her, trust, perhaps, or the beginning of it. She moved to the window overlooking the stars. "Among my people," she said slowly, "to truly look at another is to accept responsibility for what you see." Evan joined her, standing beside, not too close. "That sounds familiar," he said. She turned to him. "You look at danger, at fear, at me, and you do not turn away." "Someone has to," he replied. For a long moment neither spoke. Outside, stars burned quietly, unaware of the fragile peace hanging between them. Sela broke the silence. "Stay close," she said, "not as an observer, as an ally." Evan inclined his head. "I already am." She smiled again, softer this time. Somewhere in the station, unseen systems shifted. Plans moved forward. Shadows gathered. But for now, two beings from different worlds stood side by side, watching the galaxy without blinking. And neither of them looked away. The station did not sleep. Lights dimmed according to cycle, but systems stayed awake. Doors listened. Walls recorded vibrations. Air carried more than breath. It carried tension. Evan felt it the moment he stepped out of his quarters. He had learned long ago to trust that feeling. On Earth, it had meant danger in crowded streets or quiet forests. In space, It meant something was wrong before alarms ever sounded. He adjusted the small comm unit at his ear and walked calmly, as if nothing had changed. Across the station, Ambassador Sela stood alone in her private chamber watching the stars. Her people believed stillness revealed truth. Tonight stillness felt heavy. A soft chime sounded. "Enter," she said. The door slid open. Evan stepped inside. "You felt it too," she said without turning. "Yes." "Good," she replied. "That means I am not imagining it." She faced him. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes were sharper than before. Security Council records were altered 1 hour ago. Human access codes were used. Evan did not react outwardly. Inside, his mind began to move quickly. "They're framing us," he said. "Yes, and they were careful," Sela added. "The changes were small, not enough to trigger alerts, enough to shift blame later." Evan walked closer to the floating screens. "May I?" She hesitated only a second. "Yes." That alone meant much. Allowing another species to examine internal data was nearly unthinkable for an Aurelian. Evan studied the code patterns. He did not rush. Humans made mistakes when they rushed. "These access codes are correct," he said finally, "but the rhythm is wrong." "Rhythm?" "Humans don't type or interact in perfect intervals. There's always variation, tiny pauses, imperfect timing. This was too clean." Sela looked at the data again, seeing it through his explanation. "An imitation." "Yes." "Then who?" Evan straightened. "Someone who wants war or power during chaos." Sela's jaw tightened. "That describes many." A low vibration passed through the chamber, not loud. Not enough to alert most species. Evan felt it through his boots. "Deck shift," he said. "Cargo levels." Sela frowned. "There are no scheduled transfers." "They're moving something heavy," Evan replied. "And they don't want attention." She activated her comm. "Security report," Static answered. Evan's eyes narrowed. "Jamming." Sela did not hesitate. "Then we move." They left the chamber together, no guards, no escort. For the first time since her arrival, Sela broke protocol. They walked quickly but did not run. Running invited questions. As they neared the lower transit ring, voices echoed ahead. Harsh, unfamiliar tones. Not coalition standard. Evan raised a hand slightly. Sela stopped at once. He leaned toward a wall panel and placed his palm against it, eyes closed. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Listening," he replied just as softly. She did not question him. After a few seconds, he opened his eyes. 3 individuals, heavy gear, 1 automated drone, they're setting charges. Sela's breath caught. "Charges on the station?" "Yes." "On structural supports, controlled collapse, not enough to destroy Velaris Point, enough to kill specific delegates." "Assassination," she said. "And chaos," Evan added. Sela straightened. "We must warn the council." "They won't listen in time," Evan said. "And comms are blocked." She looked at him. "Then what do humans do?" Evan met her gaze. "We intervene." They moved. The cargo bay opened into a wide space filled with suspended containers and grav platforms. 3 figures stood near a central support column, their forms hidden by dark armor. A hovering drone pulsed with faint red light. Evan stepped forward openly. "Step away from the charges," he said calmly. The figures turned, surprised. One raised a weapon. Sela felt fear spike through her, sharp and cold. She had seen violence, but never this close, never without guards. Evan did not move. "You don't want to do this," he continued. "There's still time to walk away." The tallest figure laughed. "Human," it said through a distorted speaker. "You should have stayed invisible." The weapon fired. Sela cried out, but Evan was already moving. He shoved her sideways as the blast scorched the air where she had stood. The force threw him into a container, hard enough to steal his breath. Pain flared across his ribs. He ignored it. He rolled, grabbed a loose cargo tether and hurled it with practiced force. The tether wrapped around the shooter's arm, yanking the weapon away. The drone shifted, targeting Evan. Sela reacted without thinking. She raised her arm, activating a personal field emitter. The drone's shot splashed harmlessly against the shield. Evan was back on his feet, moving fast despite the pain. He closed distance before the second attacker could react, striking pressure points with precision born of human training and desperation. The third tried to flee. Sela stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Stop!" Something in her voice froze the figure in place. Evan disabled the final charge, hands steady despite shaking muscles. Silence fell. Evan leaned against a container, breathing hard. Sela approached him slowly, eyes scanning for wounds. "You are injured," she said. "I've been worse," he replied. She looked at him differently now, not as an observer, not even as an ally, as a protector. Security finally arrived, too late to stop what had happened but in time to secure the attackers. The jamming field dropped. Alarms began to ring throughout the station. In the chaos that followed, blame tried to rise again. Accusations flew. Humans were mentioned, then questioned. Then Sela spoke. She stood before the emergency council, her posture tall, her voice clear. "The human officer prevented an assassination attempt," she said. "He acted without orders, without support, and he saved lives." Some protested, some doubted. She turned her gaze upon them, full and unyielding. "I watched him act. I trusted him. If you question humanity, then you question my judgment." That silenced the chamber. Later, in the quiet of the medical wing, Evan sat on the edge of a bed while an automated unit sealed bruised tissue. Sela stood nearby, arms folded, watching every movement. "You should have retreated," she said. He smiled faintly. "And let someone else get hurt." "That is not what I meant." "I know." She stepped closer. "Among my people, trust is earned over decades." "Humans don't always have decades," he replied. She considered that. "You risked your life without certainty. We call that being human." She reached out, then paused as if unsure. Finally, she placed her hand lightly over his. Her skin was cool, steady. "You did not look away," she said again. "No. And even when danger came, your eyes stayed forward." "Yes." Her fingers tightened slightly. "Then perhaps the galaxy has misunderstood you." Evan met her gaze, tired but calm. "It wouldn't be the first time." Outside the medical bay, the station repaired itself. Investigations began. Quiet alliances shifted. And in the space between two very different hearts, something stronger than suspicion had begun to form. Not desire alone, but trust forged under fire. Velaris Point changed after the failed assassination. Not in ways that could be measured by scanners or written into official reports, but in quieter ways. Guards stood a little straighter. Delegates watched each other more carefully. And when humans walked the halls, fewer eyes dismissed them as harmless. Evan Cole noticed it, though he said nothing. He had returned to duty 2 days after leaving the medical wing. His ribs still ached when he breathed too deeply, but pain was familiar. It did not slow him. Humans learned early how to carry it and keep moving. Sela noticed the change in him as well. He walked with the same calm focus, but now others watched him the way prey watched fire. With caution, with respect. She found him standing near a viewport overlooking the station's outer ring, his hands clasped behind his back. "You should be resting," she said. "I am," he replied. "This helps me think." She joined him, standing close enough that their shoulders almost touched. She did not mind anymore. "The council has identified the attackers," she said. "A private faction. Not aligned with any species officially." "Convenient," Evan said. "Yes." She turned to him. "They will still try to use this to weaken your people." He nodded. "We expected that. You expected to be blamed. We expect to be tested," he corrected. "Every new species is." Sela studied his face. There was no bitterness there, no anger, just acceptance and resolve. "You are very strange," she said softly. He smiled. "So I'm told." Their quiet moment was interrupted by an alert. Not an alarm, but a summons. Emergency council session. Sela's expression tightened. "They move quickly." "They always do," Evan said. The council chamber was full. Representatives filled the space with tension and overlapping voices. Holographic displays showed damage reports, suspect profiles, probability models. Human stood alone at one side of the chamber. Sela took her place at the center. The speaker began without delay. The assassination attempt has revealed severe security failures. Responsibility must be assigned. Evan felt eyes turn toward him, toward the human delegation. One representative spoke sharply. Human access codes were used. Human reflexes allowed the attacker's close. This cannot be coincidence. Murmurs followed. Sela raised her hand. The chamber quieted. You speak of coincidence, she said, yet ignore evidence. She gestured and data appeared in the air. Code analysis, movement logs, sensor anomalies. The access codes were copied, not used by humans. The timing signatures prove this. Another voice cut in. Even so, the human officer acted without authorization. He escalated the situation. Evan remained still. Sela's eyes hardened. He prevented murder. Silence followed. The council claims to value life above politics, she continued. Yet now you question the one who stood between assassins and your delegates. The speaker shifted. Ambassador Sela, this is not about values, it is about precedent. Then allow me to set one, she replied. She turned to Evan. Lieutenant Cole, she said clearly, step forward. Evan did. Every movement felt heavy, not with fear, but with consequence. Tell the council why you acted, she said. Evan looked around the chamber. Many faces, many species, some curious, some hostile. He spoke simply. I acted because someone was in danger, he said. I didn't know who they were or what species they came from. It didn't matter. A representative scoffed. That is not how the galaxy works. Evan met the speaker's gaze. It's how humans try to make it work. Another voice asked, quieter, and if it had failed? Then I would have failed doing the right thing, Evan said. We accept that risk. The chamber fell quiet again. Sela watched the effect ripple outward. Confusion, discomfort, something else beneath it. Understanding. You see, she said, addressing the council, this is what you misunderstand about humans. They do not measure worth by species or status. They see a threat and they face it. One by one, objections faded. The speaker finally spoke. The council will reconsider its position on humanity's role in coalition security. It was not an apology, but it was a beginning. Later, as the chamber emptied, Sela remained behind with Evan. You stood before them without armor, she said. I had words, he replied. She smiled. Words can be stronger. They walked together through the station, unescorted now. No one challenged them. At a quiet observation deck, Sela stopped. There is something you should know, she said. He turned to face her. Among my people, she continued, we believe that to meet another's gaze willingly is to accept shared fate. Evan listened carefully. When you first watched me, she said, I thought you were careless or bold or ignorant. And now, he asked. Now I know you were choosing, she said. You chose not to look away from someone who might reject you. That's still a risk, he said. Yes, she replied. And yet you take it again. She looked directly into his eyes fully, openly. Evan felt the weight of it, not pressure, responsibility. I won't look away, he said quietly. Not from you. Her breath caught just slightly. The station lights dimmed as the cycle shifted. Outside the viewport, stars burned steady and bright. Days passed. Investigations concluded. Quiet announcements were made. Humans were officially invited into coalition defense planning. Some species protested. Others accepted. A few welcomed it. Sela watched Evan stand among admirals and tacticians, offering insight, not dominance. Cooperation, not command. Humans did not seek control. They sought participation. On the final day of her assignment, Sela prepared to depart Velaris Point. Her ship waited, engines warm. Evan walked with her to the docking bay. You will return to Aurelium, he said. Yes, and I'll stay here. For now, she said. They stopped near the ramp. For what it is worth, she said, you have changed how the council sees your people. Evan shook his head. We changed it together, she smiled at that. Then softly she said, you kept staring. He smiled back. You kept meeting my eyes. She stepped closer. And I liked it. They stood there, not touching, not rushing. Two beings from distant worlds, sharing a moment earned through trust, courage, and choice. As Sela boarded her ship, she paused at the entrance and looked back one last time. Evan stood where he was, watching, calm and steady. He did not look away. And across the station, across the coalition, across the galaxy itself, a simple truth began to spread. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because when it mattered most, they faced the universe. And they did not blink.